The first thing I felt when she left wasn't anger. It was a cold, scorching incomprehension that etched itself into my memory like a rusty nail. It was raining. Cliché, I know, but she didn't even wait for the kids to fall asleep. Amanda stood in the middle of our living room, clutching a suitcase, her eyes holding an emptiness that went deeper than the New York subway. I remember our youngest, Benjamin, clinging to her leg, choking out sobs. "Mommy, where are you going?" She just glanced at me and uttered, like a mantra, the phrase that changed everything. "I can't do this anymore. I need to live my truth." That truth turned out to be a man named Garrett from her Pilates class. She vanished that night, not granting us even a farewell look. No apology, no remorse, just the click of the lock and a deafening silence that swallowed the broken remnants of our life. I stood there, paralyzed, holding the shards of what had been a family just an hour earlier. I had to pull myself together fast. 3 kids, no warning, no mother, just me and the brutal truth. The woman I loved had chosen a different path. The first 12 months were pure hell. Our oldest, Caitlin, stopped talking for weeks as if she'd lost her voice. Ryan, barely 10, became a regular in schoolyard fights in the Brooklyn Heights area. And Benjamin, sweet, sensitive Ben, cried himself to sleep more often than he breathed. As for me, I became a machine. 2 jobs, packing lunches, braiding hair, helping with algebra, quiet sobbing in the shower, and a forced daily smile. People whispered in our small town of Ferndale near Seattle. Some blamed me, others pitied me, but no one truly saw how desperately I fought to keep our home standing while the woman who was supposed to be my partner enjoyed her freedom in sunny San Diego. And you know what? She never called, not once. No Christmas cards, no apologies, not a single child support check. She evaporated as if we were just a page she decided to rip out of her life story. But I didn't let her absence define us. I raised my children, equipping them with love, discipline, and uncompromising honesty. I didn't teach them to hate, but I didn't lie either. They grew up knowing their mother chose herself, and despite that, they became incredible people. Caitlin became a surgical nurse. Ryan opened his own sports car repair shop. Benjamin, our gentlest one, joined the National Guard. I was proud. We made it. We did it without her. And then, 21 years later, when I opened the door and saw her standing on the porch, grayer hair, tired eyes, suitcase in hand, just like before, my first impulse wasn't anger, it was confusion. And then, with cold detachment, I asked, "Why now?" She didn't answer immediately, she just stared at me as if I was the one who had disappeared. I made a terrible mistake," she finally whispered, her voice cracking with the kind of sorrow I used to beg her to share years ago. That was back when I needed answers, when I cried alone at 2 a.m., asking myself, what did I do wrong? But now I felt only a chilling, empty stillness. The kids were grown. My life was stable, unshakable as bedrock, and she appeared, trying to shake the dust off the past as if 2 decades of silence hadn't passed. Garrett died 3 months ago, she continued, her hands noticeably trembling. I've been alone ever since. I thought maybe we could talk. She looked past me, as if expecting an immediate invitation back into the house, our house, as if time had stood still. I didn't move. I didn't open the door any wider. I simply looked at her, the lines around her eyes, the bags beneath them, and remembered every moment she missed, every scraped knee, every graduation, every evening I filled the roles of both father and mother. Caitlin was the first to hear about her reappearance. She was livid, not sad, not curious, just savagely furious. She doesn't get to come back after 21 years and pretend she still matters to us, the message on the phone read. Ryan reacted more reservedly, just making a low sound in his throat and muttering, "I'll give her credit, she's got guts." Benjamin, always our peacemaker, only asked, "Are you okay, Dad?" None of them wanted to see her. None of them asked where she'd been or how she was. They had built their worlds without her. We all had. And now she stood here, acting like time owed her a second chance. "I want to get to know them again," she declared, standing on my lawn in Gray's Harbor, as if she hadn't detonated a bomb in our lives 20 years ago. "I want to make amends." I laughed, but not because it was funny. Her audacity was staggering. "You don't get to just want things now," I told her. "You gave up that right back then." Still, a part of me couldn't just slam the door. That wasn't who I was. I invited her to sit on the porch. I made her tea, and I listened. She told me how her life with Garrett had fallen apart, how the freedom she once craved became an empty cage, how he never wanted kids, how much she missed hers, how regret clawed at her every single night. But none of it mattered anymore. I looked her straight in the eye and said, "They are no longer your children." And I genuinely meant it. She walked out on them, and now she wanted to walk back in just because her new life hadn't worked out as planned. The following days were strange. Quiet, but not the good kind of peace. It was the silence that follows a storm, when everything looks intact on the surface, but you know for sure something has irrevocably shifted in the foundation. Caitlin messaged me again. She better not come near me or my kids. Ryan didn't even bother pretending to be civil. Tell her if she wants a reunion, she should go look through the ashes of what she burned. And Benjamin, my sweet Ben, the only one who still called me every Sunday like clockwork, gently said, "You did everything, Dad. You were both parents. She doesn't deserve a place in our story anymore." And he was right. I remembered every school play I attended alone. Every night I sat by Caitlin's bed while she cried over a mother she barely recalled. The way Ryan went silent for almost a year after she left, and how I used to lie awake wondering if she'd ever regret it. Now I knew she did. But regret is not a key. It doesn't unlock doors. It only reminds you of all the ones you slammed shut yourself. One afternoon, she left a letter on the porch. No knock, no conversation, just an envelope, tucked under the doormat like some fragile peace offering. Inside was a photo. Us, years ago, before the betrayal, before the pain. On the back, she had written, "I'm sorry for everything. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I just wanted to say goodbye properly this time." That night, I stared at that photo for hours, not because I missed her, but because I didn't. That version of her, the woman I married, died the day she chose someone else over the life we built. The woman who stood at my door weeks ago was a stranger, and I owed that stranger nothing. Not my time, not my children, not my heart. A month later, Benjamin and I stood in the backyard, grilling steaks. The grandkids were running through the sprinkler. Laughter filled the air. Caitlin and her husband were on their way. Ryan had texted earlier, "Don't start the beer without me." And in that moment, surrounded by the family I raised, the family she left, I felt a quiet, unshakable peace. Not the kind that follows a storm, but the kind that comes from the realization you survived. I had carried the weight of her betrayal for years, and finally, I put it down. I moved forward, and I never looked back.